Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 5, The Mysterious Transfer Student. So yeah, another really good episode, and I think this definitely marks, I suppose, the obviously this is the first time one of the episodes has like ended with like a direct continuation that's going to happen in the next episode with what happened with Shino. So I think they're definitely building up like, okay, this is the kind of first arc, and then we'll eventually maybe build up to whatever's causing this kind of spirit thing that's kind of possessing people based on their negative emotions, and kind of build up to something there. But this was a really good episode, I think, in terms of like, one, introducing Mitsuki, of course, but also just like Shino. They're actually using this series as a way to like properly develop him, which I really appreciate. That I was kind of worried that they were just gonna kind of have him just be the kind of joke teacher. This is the thing we roughly set up for him at the end of Naruto, that he wanted to be a teacher, and here he is. But I like that they're addressing that, like, no, in a way, Shino's arc kind of actually happens here. Like, he addresses the fact in this episode that, like, he became a teacher to kind of give back to the village, that for him, even though, like, to us as the audience, it never really came across that, like, he was one of the most notable characters. He was just barely part of that kind of strong generation of characters from Naruto, of course. But this makes it clear that even though he was one of the ones more on the outside, he still saw it as like he had all of these friends, and that he wasn't alone because he had all these people around him, and he wants to give back because of that. And just the idea that he's kind of struggling with this, with the really tough class that he has with some of the pranksters, you know, Shikadai, Yunojin, Iwabe, and so on, and now Mitsuki. He's struggling a bit, and that scene when he goes into Iruka, who's revealed to be the principal, I don't think we knew that before. Maybe we did, or it's just new to me. But that, like, Iruka immediately knew that Shino was what Shino was coming in to say, and was just kind of like, yeah, you have a tough class, of course. If you really don't feel you're up for it, we can have someone else change. But he's not just going to immediately say, yes, move away from this class. But after that point, he walks out and is kind of taken over by the negative emotions. So I think that's a really good setup for the next episode. That's going to, I think, ultimately result in the class respecting him a lot more. That just before that happened, you had like almost everyone in the class kind of insult him for kind of being like, oh, he's like the least powerful member of that generation. He's the one least that we should the teacher we should respect the least, and so on. What happens next, I think, is going to make it very clear that like Shino is a member of that really strong generation of characters. That even though we don't know him, even ourselves as huge Naruto fans, that well, that he is like an amazing fighter. And I think that's what's going to come across very clearly in the next episode. The three main members of the cast right now are going to obviously have to fight him, and they're probably going to lose pretty badly, or at least the three of them. And it's probably going to have to be something like the whole class taking him on, or else Mitsuki or Boruto revealing some sort of like advanced power that maybe they don't have full control of, to like maybe knock Shino out enough for the spirit to kind of come out of him, or else they'll manage to get through to Shino and he'll snap himself out. Depending on what way they want to go for it, there's definitely a few options. But Mitsuki was interesting in that it was, yes, of course, this was his introduction, and what I found interesting with it was that he is a quite different character than we see him in the later stuff. Primarily the Boruto movie and stuff like that. In the Boruto movie, it's definitely like made very apparent that he's quite close with Boruto. Like, there's a connection between him and Boruto that isn't really explained all that much. And through this, and if you also go back and read the Orochimaru Mitsuki one-shot chapter, it's like 700.6, I think it's called. That one also touches on something that's brought up in this episode. The idea that Mitsuki is basically, in this episode, testing Boruto to see if he's worthy of being considered the like Mitsuki's son, S-U-N, his symbolic son, in the same in a similar way to the way like that's kind of the way Naruto was kind of seen, and it's the way like some of the Jinchuriki in the Naruto series kind of talked about how they made up for the fact that their lives were a bit of a struggle by always having like a son to kind of light the darkness. So Naruto had his mother and father, B had A, and here they're kind of going for something along the lines of like Mitsuki, given his heritage and where he comes from, needs someone to kind of guide him into the light, given where he could go. And you sort of see that just by the fact that, like, when he has a sparring match, he kind of holds the sleeper hold on too long. He kind of takes things a little bit too far. Kind of comes across as like, yeah, you can sort of see Sound Village, what they're going for with him. And it's going to be characters like Boruto, Sarada, these characters who influence Mitsuki and kind of change him from who you would think where he would go based on who his like father is, to actually just being a really solid, good member of this generation. So I kind of like that as a setup, that the whole time you're kind of wondering, like, is Mitsuki the one causing all of this to test Boruto? Or is that stuff just completely separate and it sort of ends up coming across, even though it's not the case, that Mitsuki's the one doing it? They could go either way with it. I'm probably going to lean right now on the side of he maybe knows something about it, but is maybe not causing it. Or else, like Mitsuki's father, who, just, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who doesn't quite know, maybe he's the one who's, like, causing this, and Mitsuki knows of it, but is not actually, like, the one causing it as such. But there are a few interesting things, like the whole Boruto potentially Tensaigon, Byakugan thing. That comes up, and it's clear that Mitsuki is aware that Boruto can see the kind of spirit, which either suggests that Mitsuki can see it too, or knows what the thing is, and so is aware by Boruto's reaction that he can see it, even if maybe Mitsuki can't. He knows about it and how it can be seen, so that's why he's aware of that. But it could just be that he thinks Boruto is special, that's why he's kind of testing him and wants to be friends with him, and that's where we're going. But, yeah, other than that, like, solid episode, some really fun moments, you know, seeing, like, Shino throw a party, which ends up working out well for everyone, except Shino. But I think very, very solid episode with how they kind of combined introduction of Mitsuki with Shino character development, and it kind of came together really nicely with on both sides, in that Mitsuki is actually really interesting, and now Shino, who maybe perhaps was a little bland before, is still really interesting. And then there's just so many more things this series can do, in that we still haven't really had an episode that in any way like focuses on, like, say, Naruto. We haven't really had him like come into the series as such, and like characters interact with him. Sakura, like, they have options to do this with a lot of characters, whether that be like Choji comes in and gives like a you know, a jutsu kind of a demonstration or something like that. You have Kiba come in and demonstrate like ninja dogs. You have all of these options with the cast that we know so well from Naruto to come in and kind of see a bit more of them as they are older. Like Tenten teaching a weapons class or something like that. You can do these things, and now that the characters are older, like, characterize them a little bit differently and just give us that little bit of insight. Kind of have the previous cast basically take on the Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai role now that they're the kind of Jonin above characters. But yeah, that's where I'm going to end the video. That's been the review for Boruto episode 5 of the anime. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode as well as the review. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.